I'm not gonna waste any time here. MGO3 is unplayable. Period. Does it have potential? Of course, a lot of people can agree to that. When it plays well, is it fun? Yeah, that's the reason a lot of us keep playing. Is there good maps, modes, potential strategies, and tactics to be had? Well, of course. But that amounts to nothing when we can't even play the game. I stopped playing a few months ago. I got hounded by a sheer miracle because this game lags so bad, it is unplayable. You see, this game suffers in key areas. It suffers in matchmaking and hosting. It suffers in customization. It suffers in game modes, adaptability, control, and community. I'll explain. You see, the game suffers in matching and hosting because to this day, disconnecting is still a huge issue. Due to the small player base, you will be matched with people above or below your own skill level. Though not much can be done about that, it's still worth bringing up. And then there's the huge lack of options when creating a match. There's so many times I wish I could just outright block certain weapons, just to be able to balance your own game myself. It was fun to do in the previous installments. What makes it so different now? And in survival, a host quitting means that you don't get a win, and you lose whatever win streak you had, which is important in a game mode where you need to win consecutively to even get a worthwhile reward. And people do this on purpose. When your main source for getting into games screws you over more times than not, then you can see why most people get frustrated by this. Now the game suffers in customization because it is severely limited. Other than the outrageous color choices, there really isn't much to make you stand out. While yeah, the type of gear is more Metal Gear-like compared to MGO2, it doesn't really help that there really isn't much to choose from. I'm not saying you need to do it like MGO2, but what you lack in customization, you need to make up with what exactly you can customize. There's a ton of hats that you can't wear with anything else, let alone at least change their color. And don't tell me it's to prevent clipping, because some of these pieces of gear still have a ton of clipping as it is, and people either barely notice or don't care. It's like there's a huge potential for more MGS outfits that could be customizable, but there just isn't. I bring up the Arsenal Tengu a lot because if you seriously added that, plus had primary and secondary colors, that would be worth it, at least to me. So far, the MGS3 fatigues are a step in the right direction, though the mother base coins are kinda much, and it's kinda pushing it. Especially since you have to buy the gear in its default color first, and then whatever color you want it to be has to be bought separately. And still, it costs mother base coins, so yeah, you're being charged twice. And before you bring it up, the face customization, while interesting, barely means much in-game. A lot of people's faces tend to look pretty similar anyway, and since you probably won't be paying much attention to their face, and the kill cam doesn't zoom into their face at all like in previous installments, chances are you won't really notice how customizable it really is. But moving on from that, the game suffers in game modes because some are made to be played in such a specific way that any change can make matches extremely one-sided. Comm Control being the best example of this. This game mode was made in a way that just seemed unnecessary, having teams taking turns defending and attacking, when there's 3 classes with distinct weapons and loadouts that can drastically change how each game plays. It just doesn't make sense in a game mode like this to be structured that way. If classes were restricted, as in you can only have 2 of each class per team, then maybe it would have worked a little bit better. It would sure block all that grenade spam. After all, these game modes and map are made with all these classes in mind, all working in tandem, as a team. But have an entire team of enforcers and suddenly that dynamic gets thrown out the window! These game modes require a type of teamwork and coordination that you can't support because you can't adapt, and I'll explain that soon. Other than that, there's just a small amount of game modes. This doesn't really bother me too much, since, well, the game modes that we have need work as it is, and as much as people have asked for it, I can't imagine how free-for-all would work. Unless you're automatically placed as an enforcer or something, then maybe. Because since each class has access to their unique skills at all times, no one would be on an even playing field, which is what you need for a free-for-all to work. But that's just how I think. So moving on. The game suffers from adaptability. What I mean by that is the following. There's 3 classes, each with their own roles and sub-roles between them. They all have varied skills, all have varied gear, and have varied stats. But when you start a game, you're stuck with whatever class you picked and you can't switch after that. So you start a game, join a sabotage or something, you realize you're an infiltrator. And you're like, oh damn, I'm an infiltrator, what am I gonna do? Then when you look at the other team, what do you know? All of them are damn enforcers. All of them with more health, stamina, and firepower than you, with skills that increase explosive damage and reduce it for themselves. Skills that let them see when people sneak up on them, completely making a stealth approach null and void. And you can't do shit about it. There's no way for you to adapt, no way for your team to reorganize and think of a different strategy. Whatever you got, you're stuck with. And unless you have a loadout for every possible scenario, which you probably won't even use, let alone have enough loadout slots for it, then you're just gonna have to deal with it. When you have a game about tactics and teamwork, and then you have skills and classes that outright deny and lock out certain strategies, counters, and skills or classes, or hell, just have straight up skill setups that are superior to everything else in the game, then you don't have a balanced game. While MGO2 didn't let you change skills mid-game, you could at least change weapons, letting you at least attempt different strategies with access to all weapons, not just pre-made loadouts, but you could switch at all times. And that made all the difference. You could adapt to any situation presented to you, and teammates could essentially switch roles every death or back at the base to restock. But since in MGO3 you can't do that, and there are classes that completely destroy others, especially when you're playing a coordinated team, then you just can't do anything. You're just kind of stuck there, wondering why you're even playing. So I hope I explained that well enough at least. Now then, the game suffers from control. Now this one I'm pretty sure is unchangeable, but I'm bringing it up anyway because it's important. Because this single-handedly is the reason why this game can't be seen as competitive as other games, and why it's much more of a niche game than the previous ones, if ever so slightly. You see, the most important thing in these types of games is how much you feel like you're in control. In MGS5, the game is designed in a way so that every move feels like it has weight to it, making it pretty realistic. And in here lies the problem. In a multiplayer game where reaction time can mean a kill or a death, chances are that because of this design, you will end up getting stuck. A lot. You see, there's a delay with every single input, especially if you try to move back and forth or in any other direction after you already went in a straight line for a while. You can't switch directions that easily, meaning that you can't move where you want to move as quick as you would want to. So this game does not react to quick inputs that well. If you play the game slow and steady like in single player, you won't have much trouble, but in MGO, once you start playing the game faster and faster due to you learning the game, you will see that the game does not handle quick movements that well. You can already see that by just moving the analog stick in circles. You don't even need to do it that quick for it to happen. The movement in this is just not suitable for a multiplayer. And this is why most of the maps are pretty spacious, because if it wasn't, you would probably stick to cover in areas you didn't intend. Seriously, go to any tight space in any of the maps and just run around in circles. Try and maneuver around and see if you don't get stuck at all. At any point. Add in a bunch of people that are shooting at you, and chances are you probably won't be able to get out of there alive, because it's that hard to move that quick. The game just isn't made for it. And also, before you say it's realistic for it to be this way and that I'm just complaining, I would like to show you guys this. This is diving. As you can see, I can do it without even turning around. It has literally the least amount of delay than any other movement that you could do in this game, which is why it's so reliable and so annoying, because literally every other movement does not react as quick as the dive. The fact that you can do this so easily without any delay just enforces how bad the rest of the movement system is. Half a second is all it takes for you to die, and it feels like the game is fighting you every step of the way when you try to move quickly. And I mean, sure, in MGO2 the movement was so precise that you could essentially spin in place, but at least you felt like you had control. You didn't feel like your character did something that you didn't want to do, or that you wouldn't have died if you hadn't been caught in an animation or something like that. It's with things like this that this game probably won't be taken too seriously competitively. Add the fact that these detailed animations are part of the reason for a majority of the lag, and yeah, it doesn't really look that good, does it? I'm sure not everyone will agree with this point, and honestly feel free to disagree in the comments. But when I feel I'm not that in control when I play, I just don't feel like bothering playing anymore, especially when playing as a class made of paper. And finally, we've reached the last one, community. Yeah, I'm bringing this up. You see, this is a double-edged sword, and I'm talking about community support within the game as well as the community itself. MGO3 does not support its own community. Text chat was removed from an M-rated game because they didn't want people to insult each other. Clans were considered unnecessary, and it's a miracle we even have survival. Point is, playing with other people and communicating with them is damn near impossible. Even with voice chat, cause there's a lot more factors to that, like parties for one. The community is so disconnected from the game. You can't interact with other players the same way you could before. You have to rely on outside sources to even get a conversation going about this game. When before, all you really needed to do was open up text chat. When I play, I just recognize a bunch of names, and that's it. That's all they are to me. Names. I can't joke around with them, I can't talk trash with them, I can't even have fun with them. I'm lucky if I can even strategize with them if they're on my team. Oh, but thank God we can say what an appeal action, right? Cause I really needed to communicate that above strategy. I can't name specific players out to tell them specific strategy. I can't give them certain hints to get them to stop doing what they're doing. Instead, I can only say vague statements that everyone will listen, and if everyone is that stupid, everyone will do it at the same time and just make the game completely broken if you have a dumb enough team. And look, I'm not saying these statements should be removed. They all have their novelty. I like using "Are you serious?" and "Shut the hell up" a lot myself, but all in all, these are some things that should be expanded on. I haven't seen one person say they wouldn't want clans back. But at the same time, in-game clans are kind of a dying feature in console games. Unless they're done over a website, clans haven't really been much of a thing from what I've seen. But again, I haven't seen many people say they wouldn't want it back, so there's that. And then there's the community itself. We said the same thing to the dev team so many times. From before launch, all you would see: text chat, survival, clans, tournaments, text chat, survival, clans, tournaments, over and over and over again. And we're still saying the same things today, except add in disconnections and a few other things to the list, and I still think the same way these guys do. Yet at the same time, I wish we could give it a break, you know? Hearing the same thing over and over every day gets tiring after a while. Hell, you guys are probably tired of hearing the same bullshit from me too. And that's coming from me. I can't imagine what the devs must be going through, having to look through every single comment that we give them. But don't get me wrong, and it's not like I'm saying everyone should shut up, cause that doesn't really help either. The more we keep yelling, the more people we keep turning away. It's just how it is. We need to find that happy medium and make it so we don't have to yell as loud to feel like the devs will listen to us. They have been listening to us this whole time, but they haven't proven to us that they are listening. Nothing to show that something is being done until it's too late. Nothing but vague corporate responses that do nothing but aggravate people like me that just want a straightforward and honest answer. And they haven't even banned cheaters yet. Come on. So unless the dev team work with us we probably will never shut up, and we will continue to enforce that toxic image this community has. A group of whiners complaining about a game that died a long time ago, when we all know we're much more than just that. Thanks for listening.